Hello.
Hey, sorry about that. Well, welcome to the Pop Culture Green Room. This is Blair Bryant.
And this is Kimberly Bryant.
Kind of work versus order real quick. This is once, but we're good.
You know what? I like this. You know what? We're not perfect, everybody. So
Exactly.
we're goofing up on our intro a little bit, but that's okay.
Yeah, we're good.
It's okay because our setup is a little bit different now. So we decided
this is more fun.
we decided we're taking over our dad's man cave since he passed away. So we meet up
in more space, yes.
And so we figured we're to come and do this, but we're cracking some jokes. But we're here, but y'all, this is an awesome episode because this is something that we've been waiting for a long time. Okay, super excited. Drum roll, please.
Yes, and we have Morgan Miller, who's our guest for today. She is an executive producer on Southern Charm and will be on this next season that's coming up. So we'll be talking with her about her background and how she got started, what the show she's worked on, like her experience with Southern Charm, and what we can expect this next season.
Yep, and I'm so excited. Hello, Morgan. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, guys. How are you? I'm so glad to be here. I know this is a
doing great. Very excited.
Coming. Oh, sorry. I said I know this is a long time coming. I'm so sorry it's taken so long for us to finally do this, but I'm so happy to be here with you guys.
Oh, you're good. I mean, it's been a long time. It's been crazy things like
it's been life has just been insane.
For both of us. So.
But we're finally here and we made it and we're super excited. So.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
So to start things off, I kind of want to ask you, so like, tell us about you and tell us about how you got started in the producing space.
So I'm from New York originally, and I started actually working on indie features and as either a PA. I started as a PA and then like an office assistant production coordinator on indie films back when I was like 17, 18, 19. And then I actually started working at Bravo at corporate I was there for just under 5 years, from when I was about 22 or 21 until 26. And I went from there and segued that back into the field. I'd always loved being on set, and it was something that was my passion that I wanted to get back to. And thankfully, with the support of my bosses, the executives, my colleagues at Bravo, they were able to set me up with some meetings and some interviews, and ultimately were very supportive of me transitioning out of my role in corporate into producing in the field. And that was in 2012, and the rest is history.
Oh my gosh, that's super cool.
Yeah, that's really fast.
So because I didn't even realize that you started in a corporate world and you went from corporate to the field. So that transition, was it a stressful one, or was it a learning curve?
There was definitely a learning curve. I had some experience on set on features, but I mean, it's such a vastly different world. So definitely a learning curve. I started as an associate producer on season 5 of Real Housewives of New Jersey, which was an awesome. I mean, I can't really ask for a better first experience. That was the last season with the Manzos, who I developed. I ended up doing their spinoff and the pilot for that, and then the first season. And it was a learning curve, it went from a corporate environment to certainly not one, but I was so excited to be there that I had an insatiable appetite to learn, to grow, and to really get my hands dirty in any way I could, and learn as much as I could, as fast as I could.
That is super fascinating. So, what was your favorite experiences whenever you worked on Real Housewives of New Jersey, or was it Married to Manzos? Is it Married to Manzos? Is that what it was called?
Manzo with Children.
Manzo with Children.
Well, yeah, Manzo with Children.
It's kind of one of those two shows.
I'd say, let's see, some of my favorite memories on Jersey, at least. The Manzos I adore, and I still adore, and am not close with, but stay in contact with. But I just remember, the Jersey Housewives were always, regardless of who it was, they were always incredibly welcoming of the crew into their homes. And they almost looked at us as an extended family. We
Okay,
would
I can
do
see that.
interview or confessional setups in their homes. So let's say, Teresa's house, if we had an interview for her that day, the kids were, Gia was probably 12. So all the other kids were younger than her, or she may have
So
even, no, she's
wild.
probably around there. And so, interview days, I remember there was one time and I was the AP, associate producer on that.
Mhm.
The kids, when they're in the house, they make, they're kids, they make noise. So we couldn't
Right.
do it for audio. So Teresa's like, here, Gabriella needs to go to soccer practice. Morgan, could you do me a favor? Could you take the girls to get ice cream to like get them out of the house because they won't shut the fuck up. And
Right.
I took the car, dropped Gabby off at soccer, took Melania. I think Gia was no, Adriana was with someone else. I took Melania and Gia to ice cream, and then we went and picked Gabby up, went to get hibachi, and then came back, and the interview was over, and it was perfect.
Wait, oh my gosh. So cool. So you did a whole like nanny run. Like that was that was nanny working for the whole day.
And the kids were great and they were fun. And but hey, you know what? You do what you have to. That's the thing about reality TV, coming from my very brief stint in features and in movies, there's so many people. It's such a big production. There's so many departments. Reality, there might be a crew of 30, 40 people, but it's not a crew of 200 people. So you really are kind of in depending on the position, but in many ways kind of pitching in wherever you can, especially if you're a producer and you're lower level. You're like, for me, I was hungry. I wanted to impress my bosses. I wanted to do a good job. I was like, yeah, sure. No problem. I was 26 years old. I was like, yeah, sure. I'll take her to soccer practice. Cool.
Why not?
Why not?
That's pretty cool. I mean, not everybody can tell a story like that.
I know. That's just what's super cool. I know.
I need them for a day.
Oh, those are great. We used to, Caroline Manzo, anytime she cooked dinner for something for the family on camera, she would always, every time without fail, make enough for the entire crew that was there and make sure that we ate after.
I love that. That reminds me so much of like Southern hospitality though. Like people in the South.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, 1,000% like that. That's so cool though.
Totally.
I can see that with those like Italian families, especially like that dynamic. It makes sense to me. Like even today, I was watching half the day watching a Jersey Shore. Was it Family Reunion or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
Family Vacation.
Family
Vacation. It's so funny because I even watching that and seeing the dynamic with them. It's so different. It's very different with. I don't know if it's their culture or being from Jersey or what, but it's like they just have that whole family dynamic and the whole eating and the meals. I was like, it's
I've been on TV for so many years.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
definitely. So I wanted to ask you. So with okay, so you worked with Jersey, and was it like a big was it a hard transition with like whenever they would have like cast changes? Was it a big issue with production? Like
season to season, if there was like a cast change. Well, I only did Jersey for that one season. So
okay.
Here's the thing. On shows that I've worked on that there are cast shakeups, it depends. Honestly, it depends because it depends on who left and who's coming in. So it can run the gamut. There can be, and even within a cast, there can be some people who are really excited that someone's leaving and other people who are miserable that person's leaving. And that applies to new people coming in as well. And I think there are not always, there can be cast members on shows who maybe have been on the show for a long time and they have a certain connection to it or a sense of ownership in a way. And we're seeing it this season on SLC, although in a terrible way with Heather Gay, there is this immediate skepticism or distrust or targeting, even can go so far as to targeting of new cast members because they are not in the inner circle or you feel as though they don't deserve X, Y, or Z. So it's, I think like I think the reality is that, no pun intended, sets like this, they're kind of like, they are in some ways like any other workplace. If you have someone who leaves after years, you're sad to see them go. It's a coworker.
Right.
And vice versa, if someone comes in and you know them, or they come in and they end up being an asshole, like, that sucks.
Mhm.
So, it kind of operates that way.
Yeah, which I mean, it makes perfect sense to me.
Exactly. Yeah, where it's like almost like this like unspoken hierarchy there. That yeah, I
Yeah,
can see that.
there is. There absolutely. This one I can't name names on people who specifically are, like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
very, like, bullish about new people coming in, but there are a couple.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think we've been able to tell from watching, I guess, enough reality shows or which
You probably
we
could.
got some ideas for sure.
You
It's just
probably
like now I may be wrong, but to me it seems like I'm finding that I'm hearing more production, like people from who are producers, or they're having more issues with people in reality shows and reality television compared to scripted. That's what I'm
Mhm.
hearing from like social media, Reddit. Do you find that to be the case?
More issues in what I'm curious, 'cause I haven't come
Oh
across
yeah, more
in
issues
what
like with
way?
like cast, like
Oh, like
mhm.
egos. Like, kind of like reality star egos versus,
Yeah, right.
actor.
Hmm.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, egos exist everywhere, right? So you give anyone
Right.
the attention of being on television or being not even just on television, but, like, in the public eye, there's always the potential for that. What I will say, though, is I think that especially looking at, like, the Bravo reality space,
Hmm.
outside of other, other networks and other things. So, I mean, like, 90 Day Fiancé is hugely wildly popular, but you don't hear about stars of 90 Day Fiancé being
Right.
complete assholes, right?
Hmm.
Bravo has undergone a really bizarre transformation in the public sphere. It's always been,
Hmm.
not always, but in the last 15 years, it has been regarded as a little bit of the gold standard for certain types of reality shows,
Right.
docu-soaps, ensembles, Housewives, Vanderpump, Southern Charm, Below Deck, these things, right? Um, and it's always had a rabid fan base that is incredibly engaged,
Hmm.
incredibly just, they're present and they follow it week to week. Okay. Since Scandival, since social media. I mean, social media was really the progression of social media. I feel so fucking old saying this, but, like, the progression of social media really
It's
True.
true.
Yes.
now, because here's the thing, 10 years ago, the only time people were getting caught doing anything were when, like, paparazzi were called or an off chance.
True.
Now,
No, you're right.
anyone with a cell phone is a citizen journalist or a citizen paparazzi, and
Yep.
and I can say this as a producer, it's fucking miserable. If we shoot a scene,
Hmm.
I think about 10 years ago, yeah, there'd be, like, that one person who's got their cell phone who's recording, and you see
Hmm.
them and you're like, "Hey, sorry, can't do that."
Uh-huh.
Because you wanna protect the integrity of what you're filming. It's gonna come out in
Right.
9
Yeah.
months, like, and it's also really annoying in the back of a frame when you see people just filming
Oh, I'm
see
sure.
any scene of Vanderpump Rules in public this past season, and they can't
Mhm.
avoid it. It's everyone with cell phones in the background.
Right.
Right.
But that's what's happening now. So, I
Mhm.
think that with that exposure comes what happens to actors when there's exposure? What happens to any public personality? There's ego.
Mhm.
There's ego that
Yeah.
gets fed.
Yeah.
There's the praise that goes with that, the quelling of insecurities, so does it create people who can kind of be referred to as, like, monsters? The, like,
Mhm.
quintessential cliche Hollywood monster that actors have typically been referred to as, yeah,
Right.
it can. And the truth is some of those people were nightmares even before the Scandival and the craziness, but I think that
Got
this
it.
Yeah.
Bravo explosion, this resurgence has
Mhm.
just given more life to more of them because everyone's watching Bravo again.
Which is true, and
Yes,
that makes so
exactly.
much sense because I know of so many people who took a hiatus from, reality television in
Yeah.
general,
Right.
especially Bravo, and then when Scandival hit, it's just like, "Okay, wait, what's going on?" It's all
So
over the
everybody's the next
national news.
yeah, it's like I'm going, it's more of a
I
life,
mean,
like I'm
in a million years, I never thought I'd see a CNN ticker that read something about an affair on Vanderpump Rules.
Right.
right.
No, you're right, exactly, yeah, and I had Navy SEALs sending me, like, links and articles about stuff going on, and I never thought that would happen either. Like, that they would
Right.
be
I
so
mean,
caught up in
I'm
it,
not interested
yeah.
in
it's
reality TV at
wild.
all. Texting me about what's going on with this. I know you keep it up with it.
Exactly.
It was crazy, yeah. But yeah. So like as far as like insofar as like the casting space or like the behind the scenes part of it,
Mm.
were there any other like secrets or anything with casting decisions that you're aware of behind the scenes dynamics that like you feel like the fans would be shocked to know or surprised about?
Ooh. casting things.
Maybe just like the cast in general. Or
The
anything like
process is such a weird one. I mean, there are ones where, I mean, look, I can't. There's certain ones I can't give names to. However, I will say that there was someone who actually was cast on a show, that I and other people had fought to be cast on the show, who had maybe played around in the show beforehand and was wonderful, and were like, yes, fought for them, fought for them, fought for them. They got on the show, and they are absolutely horrible.
Oh no.
Wow.
It was like yeah. So I'd say that's one of the ones that are more disappointing. I'm trying to think if there was anyone that maybe like was in talks to be on one of the shows that ended up not being, but I can't off the top of my head. You know, the truth is with the casting process, by the time I come in, and even my counterpart in like the post EPs, the cast is already done. The network is very heavily involved in that. What I will say that's always surprising is the lack of pool that they find season after season on some of these shows. But by the time I come in, the cast is pretty set, and I at times am disappointed in maybe ones that I knew were up for it that didn't get it. But once you get the pieces that are given to you, at the end of the day, the network's my boss, and I do with it what I have to and what I can.
Right. Oh my goodness. So oh my gosh, I have so many questions that I can't. I'm trying to think of like,
No
like,
worries.
oh my gosh, like, oh my. Okay, so if you could, this is a really random one. If you could live a life of like one cast member, who would it be? Of like any, like from any like show that you've worked on across the
Any
board.
one cast member from any show that I've worked on. Ooh,
That
wow.
like if you could like swap lives with them for like
Good.
a day, a week.
Okay, hold on. I'm just gonna do a very quick run through in my head because that is a
I'm sorry, that's like such a random question.
now I'm gonna, this is my ADHD brain. It like switch lives with now, or like all the shit they dealt with before, or just where they're at now. Just like swap lives.
That's a okay. You put a twist on that one.
So maybe about whenever you were okay. How about this? Let's kind of narrow it down. Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll narrow it down.
Let's narrow it down to let's say someone from Southern Charms. That's what we're really excited about. That's coming.
Yeah, of course. If it's where they are right now, you know what? Madison LaCroix.
I was thinking that. Yeah,
Madison.
I can see
Madison or Craig.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Craig. Oh my gosh, I love Craig so much. It's so crazy because you can actually see him grow. Like you like literally watch him grow like on the show, and it's phenomenal. Like it's like I just wish
I don't think I've ever seen anybody have like evolved the way
This is true. He has really grown into himself in an unbelievable way, and with a lot of help from a lot of wonderful people who he trusts and are trustworthy.
I do believe that.
So it seems like he's got him. It's like, I mean, despite his partying, but I mean, he was young, and like despite that, and like his earlier years on the show, and starting out on reality TV, for seeing, I mean, he definitely has his wits about him to be able to make that kind of decision about the, like I said, people he surrounded himself by, and also makes me think, especially about those best friend he started, someone down south with. Who like with that?
Well, those his partners, Jerry and Amanda, and Jerry and he went to college together. They're longtime friends.
Oh wow, okay.
Jerry is wonderful. Amanda is wonderful. And if they each own 33% of the company for a reason. Craig's the face. They are the business.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Creative as well. He's not just the face. I mean, this is his brainchild, but he would be the first one to tell you it never would have happened without Jerry and Amanda.
Right. Acknowledging that, and like I said, that's what I knew right there when I saw how it was going, because how people like made fun of him, and
they
made fun of him, and he leaned into it. That's how I loved,
He did, and to be fair, I've made fun of him too, but to his face.
We did. Well, we did, but we made fun of him in a cute way because it was funny. Like you never saw
really precious.
The key lime. And I love the key lime pie. His dad, dad talked about how he made the key lime pie.
Oh yeah.
What was it? He was 16 years old. He made a key lime pie. It was his first cookbook.
Yeah.
These lines I always remember that.
Someone he brought Shep and Whitney with them too.
And Whitney up to Delaware. Oh boy.
That is like one of my favorite episodes. Like, I'm like, oh wow, we're getting to really no credit.
Like, so before we get too far into this, because I forgot to even ask this other question to get into this, but so like, what was your how did you get involved with Southern Charm?
How I got involved with Southern Charm. So I had done Real Housewives of New York City season 6, and the showrunner of that season and my counterpart in my position that season, who was a friend of mine, ultimately went and did Southern Charm. And I had been on something else at the time, and they had like a week into production. So it was like basically the big, or 2 weeks into production, like the beginning of the season. That one of the people that they had at the field producing position had to was either getting let go or had a personal matter. Honestly, I don't remember which, but they had to leave. And I got called asking if I would come and step in, and I said sure. And the friends flew down to Charleston and took my dog, and the rest was history. And that was season 2.
It's very cool, and it's just exciting to see how the show has evolved and how it's been around for as long as it has been. Because
it has,
I loved it. And I love the potential. I saw the potential in it in the first season, but I didn't think it was going to survive on that alone, and it did. And look, I mean, they're entering season 10, right? And like,
yeah, this is season 10. Season 1 is a different show. I didn't do it. I've obviously watched it, and Lauren and I watched it for our rewatch on our Patreon and on the podcast last year. And I hadn't watched season 1 in a long time. And I mean, it's such a different show.
It is. It's so different. Because she even talked to me like at certain scenes, and it's like,
yes,
we would watch, and it's like, oh my god, this happened now. I was like, I think that would be like an issue, like with
Southern Charm would never get greenlit today.
Yeah, that's what I was like, oh my god,
but yeah, between like Thomas and
Whitney and JD and
yeah. I know, right? I was like, and we looked, and we're like, literally, it seemed like Craig was like the most at the time, like the most decent guy there. It was, I love the invitation. Is it the Lauren that does of JD?
Wait, what?
Was she with JD?
Oh, I missed it.
When she does her JD impression, his rosacea face laugh.
I love it.
God.
Hey, Thomas! This is how he is.
Nation.
Oh my god, yeah, he does talk like that.
Nation. Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't do something else.
Lauren's got that one down.
Oh no, I love it. I'm not gonna lie, I quote that a lot because it's so funny.
It's just ludicrous. If you can find it, I'll try to track it down for you guys because it's somewhere out there in the ether on Vimeo. There is the original pitch for Southern Charm, which was called Southern Gentleman. And
I think a long time ago. Yeah,
I came out there forever. Like about a year ago.
Yes, talk about something that would never get greenlit today.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wonder if, like, I would imagine that Whitney had some kind of pull, maybe, or someone was intrigued enough.
Back then when Whitney did it, Whitney had shopped the show around to a bunch of different people. Bravo, where it landed, when they loved the world, they loved the Charleston, the blue blood, the old family, but it was a male skewing cast that Whitney brought to the table, so they went out and they cast women to join. So there was we had Cameron, who was cast. And then also Jenna, which I think Whitney was the connect to bring Jenna in that first season.
That makes sense.
And Catherine wasn't a cast member on the first season, even though she's all over it.
Oh, Leva?
I remember that. Catherine?
Oh, Catherine. Catherine.
She wasn't the original cast member at all.
She's all over the first season, but she wasn't a cast member.
She ended up becoming like pretty much like almost like the she became like honestly kind of the
glue that pretty much
like center of the show, you know.
Because I feel like had she not really been brought in, that was with Thomas that got pregnant, I don't think
there would have been a season 2.
If it was not for Thomas, I will be the first one to say, if it were not for Thomas and Catherine, the show would not have gotten the number of seasons that it did.
That's what we were saying. Yeah, that's
absolutely full stop. No way. They were the core of the show in terms of the interpersonal drama, their story, what's going, the pregnancies, the kids. It
Right.
was.
Yeah. It really was. Like, and it truly was. And it's like, I, oh my gosh.
What I love is that there's nothing manufactured about.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Despite what people say about reality TV, but
Yeah.
that whole went on
Yeah, it
the
was.
too.
Oh, nothing.
Woo!
Look, I will say this. A lot of people, and I get it. I get it. A lot of
Mhm,
people out there in the audience, and it's not just Southern Charm, but across the board, think that reality TV is scripted. It is faked. It is
mhm,
overly produced. The producers are always, I'm telling you firsthand, the craziest shit that you have seen on these shows, we producers could not have dreamt up in a million years. We could not have gotten
mhm.
them to do that. We would not have asked them to do that. They are 1000% authentically real because it's also good casting. You're casting big personalities that in certain
Right.
environments will have reactions. It's not just for theatrics and crazy, but just kind of honest, raw, real emotions. But yeah, like, Catherine running down the dock after Thomas, that wasn't planned. That was, it's like these crazy moments were
Mhm.
never,
Oh, that was wild.
they're
That
just
was,
Oh, I
so
remember
real.
that. Yeah.
oh, that was a crazy,
That was
crazy
over a
night.
microphone, by the way. That God.
Oh wait, weren't you mixed up in that?
I
That's
was, yeah,
okay.
I was mixed up in that.
Oh my goodness.
I was mixed up in that.
Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It was the season 2 finale. It was on an old Navy ship called the USS
Mhm,
Yorktown, which is permanently in Charleston, and it can be an
okay.
event space. It was a Wounded Warriors event.
Okay.
And it was towards the end of the event, and Thomas was ready to leave, and so were Catherine. It's the end of a long dock because it's a boat. It's a massive
Mhm,
boat. And all I said was, "All right, guys, do me a favor. Keep your mics on. We're gonna lens you, like we're gonna stay by the boat, but we're just gonna see you walk off back down the dock to where your car's there. It's waiting. I've got so and so there to demic you when you get to the car, and then you can leave. But just so we can see you off." Thomas wanted nothing to do with that.
mhm,
He took off his mic. Catherine left hers on. She was listening to me.
mhm,
Thomas wasn't. And then Thomas thought that Catherine was trying to pull one over. Like, I think may have gotten annoyed with something, and that's why he wanted
mhm.
to leave. I honestly don't remember, but he was ready to go.
Right.
They were ready to go. He took his mic off. She kept hers on, and he got angry and lost his shit and stormed off because he thought that she was trying to like get him in a gotcha when all she was doing was literally so we could get like bullshit sound ups, ambience
Mhm.
to just walk them off. So
Right.
then he's running after him and it's Thomas, Thomas, and it's just because of
Oh,
the fucking microphone. It
it
was
was so that's
like
so
That
crazy.
kind of made
'Cause
everything
not
worse.
that deep, not that deep.
yeah. Oh my. No, it's so wild. Because I remember when you told the story, and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
that's what happened. 'Cause
They didn't make it for good TV.
yeah, I know. It was a
it was
moment I
really,
didn't
I
forget
was like,
about
oh,
at
well,
all.
Yeah.
that didn't work out the way that I thought it would, but it made for an ender. So, okay, I
I
guess.
know, right?
I'm just seeing that part and thinking
I
immediately.
know.
I
I
was like,
was.
there's definitely gonna be a season 3.
I know. Me too. I
Yeah,
was like, whoa. I was like, this is wild. This is so crazy. And then when I heard you tell a story, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I was like, so that's what that was all like. That's what started
exactly.
the whole thing. It's just so interesting how it's like because we only get bits and pieces of
Right,
things. Like we don't
exactly.
get the whole
Yeah, of
picture.
course.
So that's what I love about being from a hearing things from a producer's standpoint. And I
Right.
don't know too much about production. I just
Yeah,
know that one day I would love to do it because I know a little bit more from like well, my cousin, our cousin, obviously was executive producer of Quantum Leap and other shows. But
right.
when I stayed in LA for her for a whole week, that was just fascinating because it was a whole different world for me partying in San Diego and making poor decisions. And then I went up there, and it's kind of like I was like, oh my gosh, like this is like it was really cool because I was like, there's like a lot more that goes into it. And I kind of knew that from college, but I did journalist things on front camera
Yeah.
on here. And I didn't pay attention too much. But now it's like I'm just so fascinated in like what goes on behind it. And I'm really fascinated in the dynamic between the producers and talent.
I mean, yeah, it's a dynamic. It's dynamic. I mean, the truth is it's a dynamic that ultimately is built on trust. I think that's something that people would
Mhm.
be surprised to they would think that's counterintuitive, but the truth is that we as producers are the people who try to help cast sort out maybe their thoughts and feelings, and at times help them put language to their thoughts and feelings through conversations with us. Now,
Mhm.
sometimes they just know what they want to go in and say and talk about because they know what the topic of conversation is. But the reality is that these are people who are putting their lives in our hands in some capacity. I mean, we're all
Right.
colleagues. We're all there to do a job,
Mhm.
but we are the ones who are ushering them and working with them. And I always look at it as a partnership. And that's how I always present it to
Right.
cast as well, because we're different spokes of the same wheel. We all are trying to do the same thing. And I'm not someone, nor is Lauren, who, and most producers are not, who want to like get cast in a gotcha. Now, if they do
Yeah.
something stupid and they are exposed for that, well, that's on them. But it's not our job to play dirty and to try like make them look bad. We don't want that. I want, if
Mhm.
you're going to make yourself look bad, that's on you. But I want to give everyone the best language and the best opportunity to tell their feelings, their thoughts, their truths, their story, and then allow people to react from there, because that's all these shows are. It's just people having conversations. Really,
Right.
Right,
Mhm.
exactly.
it's talking to each other, it's talking to their better, their partners, their kids, their parents, whatever it is. And so, the relationships, sometimes they fucking hate us. They're
Mhm.
annoyed. Sometimes we have to ask them to talk about things that they don't want to, that are uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And I think
Right.
the cardinal rule is to really just be, look, we're all fucking human beings. It's like, just have a conversation with
Right.
them. I always say to them, look, especially with a new cast that I work with, for example, like with Southern Charm, it's different. I've known these
Uh-huh.
people, the ones who have been on the show.
Right.
Right.
We're all in our mid 20s. We grew up together. So
Mhm.
I can talk to them in a very different way than I would talk to a cast that I just met, right?
Of
The same
course.
way that you would talk to your coworker of a decade very differently than someone who just walked in and was in their first week.
True,
But
yeah.
I'll always say to them, like, look, my job is to help you tell your story. And there'll be times when, I know certain things that we're tracking that I may have suggestions and say, hey, what can we do this? Or would you do this, that, or the other? If the answer is no, and it feels like something that does not feel authentic to you, tell me. We'll talk
Mhm.
about what the intention is, why I'm asking for it, why Post may want it, whatever it may be, the network, whatever. And then let's figure out what can accomplish that, but in a way that feels authentic to you. Now, we can walk through all that and do all that good stuff and it'd be great. And then they could say something when they get on camera, put their foot in their mouth, and it just go to hell. But that's kind of, we joke we're their sister, we're their parent,
Mhm.
we're their priest, we're their therapist, we're their punching bag, we're their, you know,
Yeah.
horrible. And very
Agreed.
rarely. But that's why that's my thing. It's like for cast, they can get angry at us sometimes because we are the ones who
Uh-huh.
ask us to do uncomfortable things at times. So that it can be a wonderful, great relationship. And there are some days where they want to fucking kill me or I want to fucking kill them because they didn't show up for 2 hours. And I'm like, what the fuck
Right.
now? But at the end of the day, it's about mutual respect.
That makes sense. And that kind of actually segues me to my next question. Like, what are the
Perfect.
pros and cons of working with people who you've gotten to know so well over the years and have relationships with?
Uh, well, the pros are just, I think, are the fact that there is a history. So there is a comfortability, there's a rapport, there's the ability to step in like right from day one and just hit the ground running and have that chemistry with one another. Um,
Mhm.
Mhm.
so I'd say that's the pros. The cons are kind of the same thing where it's like they know you, you know them. And sometimes it's like you want to look, sometimes leopards don't change their spots, right? So you may
Mhm.
want a different outcome, but know the customer that you're working with. And you know what? Look, j- the truth of the matter is this too. Just like any workplace, if you work with people for a long time, there are some people that you have great relationships with and some people that you don't have as great relationships with. We're all professionals. It's never going to affect the work. It'll never, that's something that's separate. But I think with any long-standing kind of workplace environment, there are there are challenging personalities and there are wonderful personalities and everything in between. It is nice sometimes getting a fresh start with a new cast, but I'd be lying if I say there isn't a comfortability of me being able to, like, say, for example, on a Southern Charm, step in day
Mhm.
one and being like, Craig, I know you're bullshitting me. You didn't do that. Get the fuck out of here. And I can say that because we've known each other since we're like 25, and
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. You grew up
Yeah.
together, like you said.
exactly.
That's so much fun.
I never.
Oh my god.
Almost like siblings at this siblings at this point.
But honestly, he calls me sis. I call him bro. And
Oh,
the,
okay.
love it.
Yeah, I
the
can see that. That's so fun.
The
Oh
yeah,
my
the cast has
god.
been around since back then. I stay in touch with pretty much all of them, as does Lauren, because she's worked with them for years as well, and we both have really good relationships with the majority of them, even when they're little douchebags.
I
Which
get
can be
it. Okay. So, like, has there ever been like any like fly on the wall moments where you were nervous and being like, "What's happening?" Like,
like when stuff's happening on camera.
yeah, or like shit's hitting
Like,
the fan
oh,
or
shit.
something.
Well, okay, so the first one I can think of is the first one I can think of is Hilton Head in season 5 on the ferry when Thomas starts screaming at Danny and starts like losing his mind, and Ashley's
Oh, I
there
remember
like,
that
with
part.
him, and it's like the insane trip from hell. That was the first year I was a showrunner. It was my first show
Oh,
um,
okay.
running it, and we're trapped on a boat. There's nowhere to go, and Thomas is losing his mind. And I was like, "Oh god, this is just gonna become a fucking nightmare." So we ended up separating everyone, and like Thomas was cooling off.
Mhm.
He was the bow of the boat, and but I was just like, "Oh, this is like." We were watching it, and there are these moments at times when the content is just exploding, and you're like, holy shit, this is awesome, holy shit." But then there's sometimes, very rarely, but then there's a threshold where it's like, oh, maybe this is getting too much, or something needs to this is
Right.
escalating a little too far. And I just remember, because this was my first show at the helm, it's like at a certain point, I no longer am a producer. It's just like, oh well, I have someone else who's above me who like needs to step in. And I would have stepped in anyway if anything got,
Right.
regardless of what level I'm at. But this moment of, oh wow, okay, I'm responsible for everyone here. This might be getting to be a little too much, and we're gonna kind of separate. So yeah, I mean, it's a fine line, but nothing bad happened that night. I mean, by the time we got back to the house, we were off camera for a minute, and he has completely come down and turns and is like, "Oh, well, you guys got me again. Got another episode." And I'm like, "Yeah, Thomas, you're a fucking psychopath. I know. Like, you lost your mind on a ferry. I know."
Yeah. Oh man, he oh yeah, Thomas definitely left an impression on the show.
Did he?
I love it.
Oh, he left a long mark.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. But the one thing I will say though is like out of oh my goodness, I wish and hope the best for Catherine though. Like I of all the
Yeah.
best for I feel like I feel like she's been through a lot and the most out of
Yes.
everybody on
Right.
that
Oh
show.
yeah. Oh yeah.
And I feel like she was taken advantage of by being on that show.
She's been carried around its
It,
back.
I think
Yep.
there's yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like Craig's the one who truly looked out for her out of the guys, and
Yeah, I'd say, Catherine has been through a lot on that show, and
Mhm.
we talked to her. Lauren and I are close with her, and she's doing a what? She's doing all right. She's doing well. She's,
Good.
looking towards the future, but I mean that woman has been through a lot in her life at the hands of a lot of people for things that
Mhm.
really
she
has.
never stood a chance and was never her fault. I mean, she was a kid when she came on that show. And I will say
Yeah,
that,
oh yeah. And
you
and
know,
that's all I was saying. She like you could just see it when I watched it back. I was like, this poor girl. Like she was like, I felt like she was like taken advantage of.
Oh, I know.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Like
oh
Absolutely. She lived a lot of life very early, and you know
yes, she
what? She's
Yeah.
a
did.
very different person now for it, in the best way, and she's a really incredible human being, and, we love her and wish her nothing but the best.
Oh,
No, I know.
definitely. I know. I was thinking about her for a second. I was like, oh, always loved her style and her hair. Just she's
Mhm.
so beautiful.
Yeah,
She radiates for the
gorgeous.
personality too, though. It's oh my goodness.
I feel like
Yeah.
Totally.
she's more resilient than people give her credit for.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Absolutely.
I 100% think so. Okay, so what okay, a typical day on set. Like a day that's like a not so much of a nightmare, like a normal
Mhm.
day. Is it just like open shut, smooth, or sailing, or is every day like shit, like something that you have to go to out your facial.
Well, here's the thing. Is every day a shitstorm? No. And I think it also depends on who you ask. Because for me, fortunately and unfortunately, the reality is about 80% of my job ends up being managerial. So I could have the day itself could be totally without incident, totally fine, but I could have had something for
Right.
next week blow up. And now we're in dumpster fire mode and we got to fix the event for a week from today because so it's a little different. But a typical day on set is actually pretty fun. It's pretty easy. You know, most shows, especially like these that we do in the Bravo verse, you know, each crew, if you are a producer on that crew, you're going to you probably have 2 scenes a day, each that shoot for like an hour and a half to 2 hour that have between like an hour, like around an hour of setup and like a 30-minute breakdown at the end where the cast comes early, you talk to them, you prep them, you talk about in theory, you should be talking about the scene ahead of time, but reminding them,
Right.
we're talking about today. If you remember at the party last week, so-and-so did this. Let's see, ask whoever you're filming the scene with, what do they think? Giving them just kind of general things that we're tracking and that we've been talking about, that they've been talking about with us. Because we'll cover a few different topics of conversation in every scene. And then it's filming for like an hour and a half. Sometimes the scene's scheduled for 2 hours just to pad it, and those are nice because you finish early, and then the crew can go and take a little bit of a longer lunch, and then they
Got
do the
it.
same thing in the afternoon. And so typically speaking, it's a 2-scene day. Maybe there's a driving scene thrown in there in the interim. It's when you get to those events and all cast days that it becomes more of a behemoth, and you have more crews, and doing an event for half of the day into the evening. Trips, don't even get me started. Those days we just, I don't sleep for 4 days and then I come home and am burnt out.
Oh
Wow.
God.
Because those have
Pretty
staggered
intense.
crews, so that there's always a crew going probably from about like 8 until like 3 in the morning. So
Okay.
crews have
Oh,
normal
got
days.
it.
We do not.
So that's what I want today too. Like, how are your feelings about cast trips? Are those fun or not quite as exciting, or are they more
Yeah, from a
difficult?
production standpoint, like y'all
They're
traveling with
wonderful and
everything.
they're exhausting. They're
Okay.
every trip is different in terms of like from a production standpoint. Some are actually really easy from a
Okay.
logistical standpoint. If you're like everyone's at a house and then you have like your vehicles and a couple of activities, that's pretty standard. Some are more elaborate. So that runs the gamut, but from an actual like story and as a producer standpoint, I love and I hate cast trips. I hate cast trips because I'm exhausted and everyone is burnt out. I hate the end of cast trips. But cast trips provide an environment where yes, they film together every week, but they film for a few hours and then they go home and they're off camera and they're sleeping in their bed and they're watching TV on their couch, and that doesn't exist on a cast trip. Even if you have separate hotel rooms, there is a pressure cooker environment where there's no going home. There's no like going back to your girlfriend or boyfriend or your dog or this.
Oh,
You
true.
are on camera and filming a lot more during the day than you would on a typical day, just by default. And it's exhausting. You're doing activities, you are probably drinking, you are, going out to, you're doing all of these things and you're constantly talking to people and there's very little reprieve. So on good trips, that pressure cooker, the things that have been percolating, the stories, the interpersonal dynamics, the conflicts, those things that have been percolating, when you're all put together, come to a head. Which is why cast trips are these, the crazy shit happens because there's no escape. There's nowhere really to
Makes
go.
sense.
You're not going home like you normally would. So
Yeah.
you get excited. It's like it's a lot of when you from a behind the scenes standpoint, trips are a lot of adrenaline. You run off of fumes, you barely sleep, you're like, you're just going
Right. You're
because
partying, drinking.
you're no, well, no. Honestly, the best crew to be on is the crew that goes early to scout. The ones who are there to like preset the lights. They're there a day or two before the cast travels. They can have a night where they like enjoy and have a couple cocktails. Once the cast gets there, we're all just fucked.
Makes
We're
sense.
all there's no getting drinks. There's no like
Oh yeah, oh the drinking part. I'm sorry, I meant that about the cast. I was talking about
oh,
the cast. I didn't realize you
yeah,
were talking about
they're
the crew.
fucking
Oh yeah, I know the crew. Yeah, they're not gonna.
no.
Oh
And then when they
no.
all leave, if we have a night, we'll be like, all right, shots for everyone. The cast is gone. Let's drink and then go to bed and go home tomorrow morning. Oh no, the cast will just, yeah. most casts will drink on these on these vacations a lot. Yes.
What was your favorite cast trip?
Ooh. I actually think I think my favorite cast trip was New York season 6 to Montana. We went to this beautiful, super, super upscale, like ranch resort called Paws Up.
Okay.
And it was just gorgeous. I was able to like horseback ride.
Oh,
I learned how to operate a drone and they let me kind of fly a little bit of a drone for a shot when the
oh,
women are
that's
all on
cool.
horseback riding. I was a segment producer on that show. And it was I was my first time to Montana. And I just fell in absolute love with it.
Everybody like loves that place. Apparently, I
Yeah.
guess I do. I dated 4 dudes from there. All of them I met in
Really?
San Diego. Like, yeah, I dated yeah, that's
Oh my
all
God, I
military
love
from
that.
Montana. Apparently, I like
By the
mountain
way,
men.
I am
So
all for Montana. Montana's great. It's beautiful in the winter. It's beautiful in the summer. It is my absolute favorite state.
I know I've always wanted to go. Like that's it's always been a dream of mine to like go out there and just go hunt, elk hunt, do something crazy like that.
Like a new
Yeah. Go to Yellowstone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That too.
But yeah, so like now that we have season 10 approaching, Southern Charm,
Yes.
like
Yes, marrying in just a couple weeks.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
I'm excited
Woo,
about that.
I'm
'cause,
here
like,
for it.
we have new cast members. We have Sally, who appeared briefly on Southern Hospitality.
And she
That's
was on
right.
The Bachelor. She was on The Bachelor, right? Because I saw her. She was on The Bachelor, I think. Yeah,
It was on The
that's where I first
Bachelor,
saw her. And then The
and it
Bachelor in
won
Paradise, I
the
think.
Bachelor in Paradise as well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I first met her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I first met
That's
her.
right. Yes. Yes. Which we checked out, Lauren and I watched before I went and did Southern Charm because I was trying to learn about all the newbies, and
Oh, okay, got it.
we checked that
Yeah,
out,
yeah. Yeah, it was interesting seeing her on Southern Charm, and now she's gonna be on no, not Southern Charm. She was on Southern Hospitality,
Hospitality,
and
right.
now on Southern Charm. So yeah, I'm very interested to see how that goes.
Who was
So
the dude with the newcomer? Is it Molly?
Molly. Yeah, Molly's
Oh,
another
yeah,
new
I
cast
remember
member.
from America's Next Top Model.
Exactly.
So, you know what's
Oh, I
so
didn't
funny
see
about it is
that.
that
Okay.
I remember seeing, like, I think through Madison's Instagram or something like that about a year ago or something about that, how she's friends with them. And I was
Yeah.
thinking, I'm like, it'll be cool she's on a show. Kind of find out I found out a few months later she's cast. And I'm like, maybe I'm kind of psychic, or maybe I just have a good,
See?
like a vantage point because I watch so much reality show, like TV.
Hey, you may be on to something.
So, but yeah, over her. And
There's a formula. There's a subtle formula that if you watch enough, you pick up on. So you got it.
Yeah. There you go,
I
Blair.
guess I kind of picked up on it back
There you go,
whenever I
Blair.
remember seeing Leva from the first season.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
she was a
Leva's
very
been
good
around
episode.
almost every season until she
Yes.
got cast.
And now she has her own show, her own spin-off, yes.
Yes. Well, the kid, I mean, yeah, she does. Those kids are an unbelievable cast. That show is wonderful, and I have to give
It's so good.
Yes.
kids who work
I'm
there
not gonna lie.
the credit for it.
It's so much. It was so much better than I thought it was going to be. I honestly thought I was going to like watch maybe 2 episodes, 3 at the most of the first season of Southern Hospitality, and I thought that would be it. But the more I watched it, I was like, this is really good. I was like, these like I said, those kids are entertaining, and I love this dynamic because it's like she came in there. It's like as like the boss said, they gave her the respect and everything too, and not only that, but it's like she's still cool and hip and she's running like this whole business, and then you get to see like these like people here. It's almost like I don't know. I think I like the cast a lot better than the Vanderpump Rules cast. Like if you want to talk about like a spinoff, I would say from yeah. I like the Southern Hospitality cast a lot.
the current Vanderpump cast or the original cast.
I would say I would say the current Vanderpump cast compared to the Southern Hospitality
Okay,
cast.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, they did a great job with those kids on Southern Hospitality.
They did, yeah.
They make that show. That group of cast make that show 100%.
Right, and I've never been so fascinated about a guy's life post that show because I want to know about Joe Bradley and what's her name? Luann. That rendezvous. I think that's. I don't know. I wish I could see a little film about that, like a little short film. Like, man, I don't know why that just fascinates you for some reason. I think
I
I love
know.
her, man. And then the fact that it's like, and then Joe Bradley is just like, oh my gosh. I was like, dude, just make like this little short 15-minute short film, which is like this little round.
Joe Bradley's great. Love him.
He's
a
cool. I
great
know.
I remember seeing like a couple of the cast members like in previous episodes of Southern Charm. I remember seeing Maddie and Grace Lilly in an episode of Southern Charm before Southern Hospitality started. They're at Lily's
Oh
house.
yeah.
They're kind of like doing some team planning because of the pandemic. That was the threat of that going on, and they went to her house.
Oh, they were at that scene, weren't they?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, they were at that scene. No comment.
And then Maddie was also she was also like whenever during the pandemic, whenever that Patricia's house, well, the boys were Patricia's, Whitney and I want to say it was Whitney because I saw this episode not too long ago. I did a rewatch of everything a few months ago. And it was Whitney and Whitney and Patricia, and I believe it was Austin and Craig that went over there.
Mhm.
Shep might have been it too. I can't remember. I think he was. And Maddie was like kind of like bartending. Some of us seeing her then too.
Yes. Oh my God, that's right. It was when we got the crabs, and they set up the table outside, and they were doing the Delaware crabs. Yeah, the boys.
Oh, that's funny. You remember all that, yeah.
Part of too that I did rewatch.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
A few months ago, I watched it from like season
The beginning,
1 all the way to the end.
That's right.
That
That's
is
where we
journey,
season 1. I was just like, shit. I don't think if this. Yeah, that's right. That's when we made that assumption.
So, like, what are your like without spoiling anything or like say anything outside of the bounds of what you can say?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts overall, or like, what do you think that we like of season 10? What do you think we have to look forward to?
I think season 10 is going to be very interesting. I was there for the second half of the season. So the first half of the season I know about, but I was not present for. I will say that I think you're going to see some of the longstanding, the original cast members maybe kind of go through some things that are very different, that they have never experienced before, that we've never seen them experience before. That's very interesting.
Oh, wow.
I think that seeing how the new cast members are integrating into the fold is will throw some fireworks and be very interesting for the viewers. And I think, a lot of that same fun, ridiculous, over the top Southern charm that everyone knows and loves will certainly be there for sure. And not without a few bombshells along the way.
I'm excited.
Oh yeah, because I would say season 10 was like a lot more explosive and exciting than I thought it would have been.
Season 9.
Season 9?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it had to do with the whole Taylor and
Taylor
and had basically not said anything.
What other story? I didn't say that. If it wasn't for Taylor, Austin, Olivia, Shep, that was the whole season last year. That was,
it was.
Yeah.
And then no
one could have expected that. Well, not expected, but no one, that wasn't planned. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, definitely. Especially
I know that it wasn't planned.
And the scene that speaking of that whole dynamic, the scene that I always think about was the hotel scene. Whenever it was Olivia, she was Olivia that overheard Taylor. She was on the phone. With a brother, and it got like it was already. Yeah, it got like uglier than what it was, and it just seemed like the whole like I think just escalated.
Got you. God, I vaguely remember that scene. It's funny. It's an odd thing for me. It's the one season I haven't worked on at all. So it's the only
that's right. Yeah,
like memory connections to. I watched it obviously, but yeah. But look, Olivia will certainly be missed.
Yeah, I know, definitely. I was surprised that she didn't come back. I was bummed. I really liked her.
Yeah.
I was sad.
Yeah.
I was really glad. So she had like shit hit the fan in her life too, especially. It just
absolutely.
My heart really went out to.
Oh, I know. And she's like, she's handling it with such like grace, and still her family. They just, I give them a lot of props because And like you said, like they're doing all this and stuff like in front of national television, and to deal with a death like that's
Yeah, I
Imagine.
can't even imagine. Olivia's
Mm.
a wonderful. Her parents are fantastic people. I, adore all of them.
a,
Yeah, for sure. So, but, oh, that's what I was asking before. I don't want to forget.
Mm.
Patricia Altschul.
Pat,
I love her.
Mhm.
What's it like being in her presence?
I love Patricia. I love Pat. She and I have. I'm fortunate that she and I have a fantastic relationship. Every time I'm in town, when I get to town, within the
Mhm.
first week, I've got to go to the house. We're gonna sit down. We're gonna have a cocktail. We're gonna talk about things. She always
Oh, I
has
love it.
ideas. She always has things of like, I think it'd be really cool to go to this place, and not just for her, like just for the show.
Mhm.
She's always trying to find cool upscale things to bring to the table.
Aw.
But she's awesome. She likes to gossip. She's cheeky.
Right.
Fun, she's funny,
She's got
and
like the best one-liners.
Mhm.
oh, oh, absolutely. She can be a really great, partner for producers as well, because sometimes if there are any of the cast who we know
Mhm.
that there are thing X, Y, or Z going on, and they don't wanna talk about it, but she
Mhm.
kind of knows I'll be like, "Pat, I need you to ask.
Yeah.
I just need you to do it. Just, like, ask him." She's like, "Okay, no
Mhm.
problem. I got you, Morgan." And I'm like, "Great."
All right.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I love Patricia. I feel for she and Whitney. Michael just
Right,
passed
he
a
just
I
couple
passed
weeks ago,
know.
away.
and
Yeah.
tragic.
Like I've been following his journey too, and that
Yeah,
just
it's really sad. He was a wonderful, wonderful man, and, like,
Yeah.
one of Pat's best friends, and I knew him for years, and
Aw.
Michael was a one of a kind. He really was. He'll be very, very missed.
oh yes, of
Yeah.
course.
Not to get somber. Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
no, no, it's totally fine.
but yes, I wanted to so like so with Whitney, because I know like he's like like right now he's currently executive producer, just like in name only currently.
Yeah.
So like, do you feel like was it kind of like his decision to kind of like be more of like a friend of, or was that kind of
'Cause wasn't he, like, part of the cast? Like, wasn't he
What?
part Yeah,
He
that's
was
what I thought.
originally. So he was a full-time cast member seasons 1 and 2. And then he
Mhm.
took a step back. And frankly, I think it was mostly him. I don't think it was not a mutual decision. I think that he just ultimately didn't want to be an A cast member anymore. I think they were bringing in more people, and
Okay.
he wanted to be involved, but this was his first reality show, even though he created it or helped
Uh-huh.
create it and develop it. You don't know what it's like to do it until you do it. And I think that there are just certain things, because he does work in the industry. He is constantly
Mhm.
traveling and splitting time between LA and making deals and doing all of these things, that he wanted to be involved, but not like his whole life out there talking about relationships and talking about this and that outside of, every year Pat asking him when he's going to get married or have a kid, which
Yeah.
can happen on or off camera. So what difference does it make?
Mhm.
True? Yes, that
But yeah,
makes
he's
sense.
in
I
name
mean,
only. He doesn't have
right,
creative control.
right. And I feel like that. I mean, even just kind of watching the evolution of the show, I feel like it was appropriate stuff for him, and even so, it's like he's still, incorporating it pretty, regularly as this Patricia, and
Yeah,
I love that she became such a shining star in it too.
I
Uh-huh.
know.
Because I remember when I
It's
first saw her on the very first stuff, like the first season, I was just like, "Oh my god, I'm going to see more of her." And I was happy
Yeah.
to see more of
Mhm.
her, but I didn't know we were going to get that, and it's been exciting.
Yeah, she's fantastic. Love her. Love her very, very much.
Oh yeah, she's been excellent. Oh yeah, so it's but which season was your favorite that you've worked on?
Oh man. Probably season 5. It
Season
was
5.
a disaster. It was hard. It was sleepless, but it was my first season running it. It was my first season, like, overseeing the field fully as a showrunner. And I also, I was incredibly, incredibly lucky to walk into a season with a ton of really, really robust story
Mhm.
already in place. I mean, Naomi and Craig had broken up. Thomas has a new girlfriend. Austin and Chelsea had broken up. like it was the breakup bunch, and it was going into season 5. It was also coming on the heels of everything in the beginning of the Me Too movement and Harvey Weinstein's arrests.
Oh yeah.
There was a lot of, and that happened, I think, we were either in pre-production for season 5 or we'd just gone up in production, but I don't even think we had. I think we were in before we'd started, and that came out and Me Too started, and it became we were already having conversations about this really being a female-centric season because of all of the couples breaking up.
Right.
Really kind of made a conscious effort to think about it from through that lens. And the breakup bunch is the name of those first couple of episodes that are like a two-parter because everyone's broken up, but that's the season where the women really band together and they kind of put their squabbles aside and they support one another. And that was something that was really rewarding as like a creative and as a producer. It was also one of the hardest seasons of my life because it was my first time being the boss. And you know what? You figure it out as you go, and you don't sleep and you don't eat and you are just like, we're gonna do this. I had
Yeah.
a partner in post though, so it wasn't just me alone. But I'd say that was my favorite.
That's so good. 'Cause actually, now that I think about it, I do remember watching. I do whenever I did my rewatch, I do remember that season 5 was actually one of my favorite seasons, and it was, and because like I said, it was very intense, but it was very like female centric. And you saw the women, be like, we don't need these men, and how it's kind of like that, and then the way men feel about it, kind of get tough shit. And I like the way they band together, and like this is a lot that went on, but it was so good.
There's a lot that happened that season. I mean, we ended with, yelling, Ashley, Thomas, and Catherine yelling at each other on the steps of it's called Hibernian Hall, but in front of
that's right. Yeah.
That was the only time I ever saw Cameron's husband, Jason, right?
That was the next season. So season 6 finale is the one and only time you will see Jason at the finale.
Okay, I couldn't. Okay, I guess I got part confused, but yeah, that was the that was quite the season.
Yeah, it was something. It was something, that's for sure.
Oh my gosh, most definitely. But just to wrap it up, so where do you see like reality TV right now? Because it's like I see it right now. There's so many, like from a producer standpoint, I see like a lot of panic right now, it seems like with it because the fact that it's such like a new thing. And right now we're pretty much going through a period where we're in a like kind of like a 15-year space of reality TV.
Yeah.
And where there's some people like where of course Housewives, we're seeing so many of the same faces on for so long, but now it seems like things just aren't really working. But it's like a job also where these people like this is where they had to go to show up for a while, and like it's like what happens after that? What happens when you like?
I
like,
mean,
where do you see things going or what's happening? It's kind of scary in a way.
It actually is very scary. The industry's in a really kind of precarious place right now, and it is reality TV, but it's actually just entertainment as a whole, and really film and television predominantly. On the reality space, Lauren and I see it, and we talk about it on our podcast as well, that we have the pandemic was kind of the beginning of it, but the truth is the catalyst was something kind of even farther back, which is Netflix. But we've seen a huge slowdown in our industry. I mean, our industry, about 50% of our sector of the industry is not working. It is the lowest numbers of productions, since outside of like actual peak COVID when everything was shut down. So that doesn't count, but the lowest level of productions in like a decade. It is probably more than that. We have the major networks they're all conglomerates. Many of them have merged over the last 10 or so years. And it's really chasing streaming as is what the problem is. Netflix got a streaming game. They kind of set this bar high and they were testing it. They were the first in the space. And every other major network has chased Netflix's tail for the last however many years and developed streamers like Peacock, like Paramount Plus, and et cetera. And it's led to just the revenue stream that originally was what funded film and television productions are reducing because those were advertisers and now they're subscribers, and it's just a different return on investment. So it's taken some time, but the industry is crashing. And what it's going to turn into, it remains to be seen. But there is
Right.
going to have to be a shift where they find ways to make enough revenue to create the shows at the level that they were 5, 6, 7 years ago. Because, well,
Mhm.
like I know for me as a viewer, I'll go on Hulu, I'll go on Peacock, I'll go on wherever, and I'm seeing
Uh-huh.
shows that look new. There's new key art, it's a new poster, and it's a movie
Right.
from 5 years ago. And I'm like, "Wait a second." And so
Mhm.
the companies are marketing old material because not as many new shows are actually being produced because they don't have the money to produce as many shows. So they're repurposing old
Oh.
material almost to make it trick the audience into being new to
Oh,
drive
got
more
it.
viewers, drive more revenue. So, this where we're at is terrible right now. Where we're going, I don't know. I think it's gonna be a minute before it gets better. There are certain
Mhm.
shows that will just kind of always be in rotation, but there are not many networks buying. The types of shows that are
Mhm.
being bought and produced now are documentaries or docuseries like true crime
Right,
or
yeah.
spin-offs and established IP. You see very
Mhm.
few creative kind of swings out there, and that's
Yeah.
as the producer, God, Lauren and I talk about this all the time, but that's it sucks. It's kind of heartbreaking because the
Mhm.
shows that were the most interesting and that were the coolest that cut through the clutter over the years, those wouldn't get greenlit right now by anyone because everyone is trying to be brand safe to save themselves from massive financial losses. So it's not great. Um, the industry is too big of an industry to not figure out a way to sort itself out. I just don't know what
Mhm.
that's gonna look like and how long that's gonna take.
Yeah, true.
And actually,
Right.
it's funny, Lauren and I are gonna be doing, a special kind of producers corner episode about the state of the industry. We had someone who had DM'd us the other day
Oh,
asking
wow.
this, so this is kind of this is an abridged version of what we're gonna be talking about there too.
I'm definitely gonna be
Oh,
looking
that's
forward to
cool.
that. 'Cause
Yeah,
I always want to
definitely.
know myself. 'Cause, like
Yeah.
again, so stuff is kind
Mhm.
of flux, but because I don't work in the industry, I didn't really know exactly. Like I guess like it's hard for me
Mhm.
to have an idea of what was going on. So definitely be good to hear from you and Lauren's standpoint. So I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to it for
we were
sure.
putting notes together for it last night, so that should be coming in
Oh,
the near
Yes,
that's exciting.
while you're with us, in fact, speaking of you and Lauren, tell us about your podcast and
Yes.
Yes.
Tell us about Reality Bites.
Reality Bites. So yes, Reality Bites, Lauren created and is the host. I co-host with her. Lauren is my incredible partner in podcasting, partner in producing, and partner in life. And
Yay.
not in that order, but a trifecta of all three. And we, as producers, cover reality shows. We talk mostly Bravo, but we also have been talking Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, Selling the OC. We tackle these shows from the standpoint of reality producers and try to give a little bit of a peek behind the lens of how the cast and the story got there and where it might be going, just from our experience as both fans of the shows, but also having worked on more than a few of them as well.
right.
And
Super
yeah, we're
awesome.
available on all podcast platforms and premium on the Patreon and Apple subscriptions. Reality Bites.
Sweet.
Yes,
Yes.
and like I would suggest to go follow them because that's how I fell in love with their podcast and
Mhm.
just like super interested in it because I got into it from listening to Vanderpump Rules and actually I discovered
Yeah.
you all. It was on TikTok. That's how I found it.
Oh,
And
really?
I found you on TikTok. I came across it was something about right when Scandal started, and I was like, I love your dynamics, and like I love that you all work on these shows and work like
Mhm.
for Robert, and I would just start following.
And then
Like,
she
I was
told me
like, I gotta
about
tell
it.
like Kim, you have to listen to this. And then I followed, then I became a Patreon, and
And then it was the one thing that we got
yeah,
to talk about together was like y'all's podcast.
exactly.
I
And
love
it's like
that.
and it was so funny. And the next thing I know, I was like, I'm like, Blair, I was like, are we weirdos? I feel like we know them. I was like, they are so cool.
I know, right?
Because of course we
Oh
got to
God,
know
we're such
Lauren first
losers.
before you. And then
Not
Right.
but
cool.
it was so cool. I was like, this is so like awesome. And it just made me more fascinated because like I said, like I know a little bit from a producer standpoint from like not reality, television from with our cousins there because
Yeah, of
they're in the
course.
industry and it's funny because we're starting to creep in there and they love it. They think it's so fun and so
Oh, I love that.
it's exciting. It's so exciting space to be in. But um it's just fascinating to know about something that we're obsessed with, reality TV, and then a show that we love so much, and then it's
Yes.
just the behind just the to know like the dynamics behind it. It's fascinating. But
I
thank
know.
you. Thank you
Thank
so much.
Morgan.
Oh
We
my
can't
God,
thank you
thank
enough.
you. Thank you
Yes,
so much
we're
for
gonna drop
having
you
me.
like your links and everyone for everyone to go like, follow, subscribe. And yes, if you have not started listening to or haven't listened to Reality Bites podcast,
Please go do it.
because you're missing out. And go
Check it out, guys.
and sign up for the Patreon as well, because we're both members of the Patreon. I love it because we get like even more content there, and that's where it's so weird. That's ours, and like she and I get together with our snacks and pizza. It's like,
Oh, I love
okay,
it.
all right, we like sit down. Yeah, we do a whole thing. We really do. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So.
I love
It's
it.
a
And we
vibe.
love you guys so much. Seriously. Thank you so much for having me on.
Aw,
Thank you.
thank you. Well, everybody, y'all have a good night, and we will
Yes.
check y'all later. Take care, y'all. Y'all good people.
Take
All right,
care.
bye-bye.